3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? This is AJ Capasso here from Talking with the Source. I'm here with my host, Jonathan Keyworth of JK47 Paranormal Investigations. What is up, my brother?
What's going on, dude? Fabulous Sunday to you.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I'm like so used to the Sunday right now, relaxing, that I almost said the wrong thing in the beginning. But real quick, before we begin, we are live on Parapost Network. If you have a vodcast that you want to promote for free and get the exposure you deserve with a bunch of group of podcasts, head over to Parapost Network Central on Facebook. Here is the thing.
Yeah.
So we are back, and basically we are live on Parapost Network Central on Paralinks Plus. So we just want to say a shout out to them. And if you guys weren't here for the last time that we had this Scole experiment up, a little bit background of what you're about to see is some footage from the Scole experiment that was from England, that 4 mediums, or I believe a certain amount of mediums, got together for about a year, years.
I think it was 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, 4 or 5 of them got together, and they did this experiment where they channeled their spirit guides, and they actually manifested in the room, and you'll see evidence of it. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best experiments ever, as well as seeing Marcello Bacci, who used a shortwave radio to connect with spirit, the most clear communication known to man to this day.
You know what's cool, dude? Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. You know what's cool is how their spirit guides became like this group, and that's what Steve-O does. You know, he has a group of spirits, and I forgot the name that they called themselves, but that's what Steve-O does as well.
Yeah. And basically, like the evidence they were catching throughout this experiment over the multiple years in the 90s has been absolutely crazy. And not a lot of people have paid attention to it because it was so long ago. But you know what? We'll share some of it right now. This is going to be the part two of what we showed. So let me just click the play button.
And mirrors came from their spirit communicators. They were told to set up a video camera in the dark cellar, aim it at a pair of mirrors so that it could only film its own viewfinder.
Trying.
While it was recording, nothing unusual was seen. But when the tape was played back, these remarkable pictures appeared.
We had images on the video, sometimes of what looked like a tunnel of light.
It's so crazy.
Other times, spirit faces were coming towards us.
I should try that, dude.
Sometimes what appeared to be a doorway moving.
Skeptics claim these images were created by video feedback, occurring when a camera records its own output. But scientists have ruled this out. Video feedback doesn't produce this kind of result. As to what these extraordinary pictures represent, we can only guess. since their meaning was never explained to the Scole group. This video, also totally unexplained, appears to be a ghostly face with moving eyes.
So creepy.
Later, a few video experiments were attempted in full light. Again, nothing unusual was seen during the recording. However, on playback, this unworldly figure appeared.
Do you think digital cameras can get that, or do you
Was it
think
possible for the
use
Scole
analog?
group to have faked
Well,
these images?
that's the thing.
Not according to the investigator
They
who
were
monitored
getting
these
it from-
experiments.
They were getting it from like regular back in the 90s cameras. So for them to get this type of evidence was pretty crazy. Hey, what's up, Nando? So for
What's
them
up,
to
Nando?
this type of evidence was amazing to get in the 90s because they were doing it with, film. You know what I mean?
Well, that was their highest technology then. Was
Yep.
the 120 millimeter camera?
Exactly.
Swiss lawyer and businessman Dr. Hans Scher.
There's absolutely no possibility that this film could have been prepared before, because
Yeah, the
I
high
selected
eight.
one of the video films which was in its original packaging, which I opened. I took the film out, I signed the film, and I put it personally in the video camera.
He
Dude, I'm gonna try that.
inserted it into the camera. We never touched at any stage the camera or the film.
When we played the film, it showed at the beginning a number of bubbles of various colors.
But there was one particular bubble on
Look at
there
that
in
head.
which the face of a person appeared, and it was a man with spectacles.
Although Dr. Scher did not recognize this face, the Scole group thought it might have belonged to someone who was trying to communicate with him from the afterlife.
Are you sick of having issues with your webinars, wasting tons
Oh,
of
of course.
time on troubleshooting with
Oh,
attendees?
no.
If so, you need StreamYard.
Fucking commercials.
I have heard
There's
of the
our
electronic
boy.
voice. I think it's
What's
actually
up,
one of the
Chris?
most disturbing and unnerving aspects of the notion of there being an afterlife.
Attempting to capture spirit voices via technical devices like radios and tape recorders has a long tradition that goes back to the last century. Today, there are tens of thousands of people around the world who say they have captured the voices of the dead on simple tape recorders. This is known as the electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, and was recently popularized in the Hollywood blockbuster White Noise.
I like that movie. Kevin Bacon, baby.
Despite the Hollywood treatment, EVP has been the focus of serious scientific investigation. One of the leading researchers is Alexander McCrae, an electronics engineer who has worked on communication systems for the space shuttle. He has been investigating EVP for decades.
If somebody came up to me in the street and said, there's nothing paranormal about EVP, I would say, well, I've done at least 20 years and hundreds of experiments, and I know that it is a paranormal effect. Now, how many experiments have you done?
But skeptics insist that EVP is nothing more than the random pickup of broadcast signals like radio and TV. To test
That
this
does
theory,
not answer
McCrae
the
tried to
question,
obtain EVP inside a laboratory that was fully shielded against radio and sound waves. This meant it was impossible to pick up any stray broadcast signals.
So inside the laboratory, you couldn't pick up anything, but yet the device still produced voices.
Although this audio sample is hard to understand, the very fact it was recorded defies all known laws of science. One experimenter of EVP is Vicky Talbot, who lost her son Braden in a boating accident in 2001.
Okay, I'm coming down into Wildcat Cove right now, which is the cove that my son departed from and did not return.
Ever since then, she says she can record and recognize his voice using this digital recorder.
Well, that's Braden. What has really convinced me is the way he speaks, the stress, the intonation. Sometimes he sounds exactly as he did in life.
Yeah.
He will use certain phrases that we used to use. He will say certain things that will identify himself as the person that he was in life. I am convinced personally that I am communicating with my son.
Like visitors to Scole and to
Hey, AJ, pause it real quick.
EVP practitioners find comfort in the belief that they can still communicate with love.
So just to let you guys know, that's what I do. Like if you guys want a reading, I can do that. I've done it for many people, like Susan, and you know, I don't wish to keep doing it for you as much as I want to, but I want you guys to realize that this power, this connection is within you. You just have to believe in your heart and mind when you're doing these sessions to bring spirit to you, and it's just amazing.
It truly is.
Sorry, man. Yeah.
No, it truly is, and everybody can do this, and I don't think people really realize that.
Yeah, no, it's all in you. You got to believe in yourself, in your heart and mind. Once those are aligned, you're going to get the crazy responses.
Loved ones. But even this conviction can't make up for the unbearable burden of losing a child.
These just make me want to cry, just looking at him. He'll just never be this age again or do that again. What matters is the love that you have for your family. That's what really matters, and not to screw it up, and to remember they can be gone in a flash. You know, these other people, I feel so sorry for them because they have no way of communicating with those that they have lost. And they go around thinking, if only, if only, if only.
Yeah, if only.
I don't have to think that.
Nobody does.
And that's a good thing.
And see, technology is so advanced now. Like,
Although EVP provides some comfort to the bereaved, practitioners say that the voices are often unclear, always one way, and frustratingly short.
The ancient Egyptians understood that they could use sound to reduce their weight.
They should pay us.
But see, you see how they just said, how science just said, you know, it's always short and they're very unclear and all this type of stuff. That's not true, because there's very clear EVPs out there that are very.
And as technology advances, it's getting clearer and clearer.
People
with the denoise and stuff. Yeah.
Well, people are using the Panasonic DR60 in this film, and that's a very controversial recorder, because even though it picks up easier EVPs because of something that's broken inside of it, it also produces terrible sounding EVPs. So sometimes very good ones, but most of the time not very clear ones. So that's why they're going off of that, which I don't feel is a smart thing, because this is an older video. They're doing that, but nowadays, you know, we're getting clearer and clearer EVPs, and how do you explain that with science? You know.
So if anybody out there has a DR60 with some EVPs, send them to me. I want to put them through the technology that we have now. I would love this.
Here's the problem: the technology of the Panasonic DR60, you can't hook it up to a computer, so you'd have to re-record it onto a computer and then send it, which makes it even more harder to pick out the noise, like pick out the sentences and type of stuff. So that's the hardest part about that technology.
Well, I'd love to see the comparison.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
One way that we also communicated with spirit, and which was a very effective way, was by use of an ordinary, very cheap tape recorder whose amplifiers were used by the spirit team to carry on a
like
two-way conversation with us.
We inspected this machine and found it was completely normal. Earlier, its built-in microphone had been removed to eliminate the possibility of recording anything. When the machine, which contained a blank cassette, was activated, witnesses were astonished when they heard this voice asking them a question.
What?
Experimenting with audio.
They removed the microphone. How could they hear the human voice?
The Scole group say that
on
their
another
spirit
camera,
communicators
maybe.
suggested ways.
No, that's the thing. The question is that was recorded and then played back for everyone to hear. So the question is that spirit, they're not using a microphone. They're using energy and some frequency to change and manipulate these things for us to understand them, which I find absolutely amazing because that was so clear.
Yeah, that was real clear with no microphone.
with a cheap digital recorder.
No, that was with cassette. They just
That's
said
what I
it was
mean.
a
cassette recorder, whatever, same thing.
Of improving their experiments. For example, they told Professor Ellison, one of the SPR scientists, how to build a device for boosting communications via the tape recorder.
Yeah, that's correct, Chris. The mic
But this
isn't
information
needed.
arrived in a very strange way. These images appeared after an unexposed film locked in the security box was later processed by the scientists. The scientists speculated about who was providing this technical information. Then initials at the end of the film seemed to have solved this mystery.
I wrote to the Edison Memorial people in America, and they sent me a copy of one of his letters, which contained his initials, which looked almost identical to the signature on this film.
What?
This matching set of initials convinced the researchers it was Thomas Edison providing this information. Not only was Edison the...
Now, Edison was, right before he died, was making he was in a race with Nikola Tesla and other inventors to
Ghost phone.
Yeah, ghost phone. So it's amazing that he might have came back to tell them to use germanium and to use this device that he created.
I have some,
world's
dude.
most famous.
I know.
I use it with all my sessions. I bought it online. It's element 32 geranium. That's what they built this out of. That's awesome.
Right.
Inventor, he also had an enormous interest in the possibility of an afterlife. His intention to build a machine that could communicate with the dead made headlines around the world, but he died before being able to build it. Is it possible that through the Scole Group, he finally achieved this aim?
What if
My
that's why he was
understanding of life
here?
after death is what we've done here, the way we've affected people about us and things that we do, and it lives on through them.
What if I told you that you can use
good old
what if I told
motion
you
array to improve your videos fast? For example, you can create a professional opener just like
Spirit voices speaking through the mediums. Spirit communication written on sealed film in locked boxes. All these incredible phenomena. But could the scientists have been tricked?
Skeptics are often unaware of the amount of experience and the amount of knowledge that goes into investigations of this kind. Between the three investigators, you could say we'd had 50 years and more. We know all the tricks.
I don't see how it could be faked. It's impossible.
Nevertheless, was it possible for the Scole group to have perpetrated a massive hoax?
These things are so extraordinary that when one tells them to people who've not had the experiences themselves, they think, oh, it must be trickery. And the challenge then always is, okay, you duplicate it.
But so far, no one has been able to do this. Nevertheless, critics still claim that the events at Scole were produced by the kinds of conjuring tricks used by stage magicians and entertainers.
As you found them in this manner like this, you see.
Because professional magicians learn all the skills of illusion and misdirection,
I'm not going to show you how it's done, because if I showed you how it was done, you'd tell everybody else.
they are also well qualified to detect this type of fraud.
Hey, presto.
With that in mind, James Webster was invited to scrutinize a number of Scole sessions. Webster is a member of the Magic Circle in Britain and has been a professional magician for over 40 years.
Well, I had an opportunity to view the cellar. I could see no magic props or anything which made me feel inclined to think there was any hoaxing or trickery.
But could he replicate the events at Scole?
I could not do it myself as a professional magician. I don't believe in any magician that I knew could do even the lighting, let alone the other phenomena that I witnessed.
Anyone? Dude, I want one of those cameras. I'm going to point it while I do a session.
Doing this here for nothing, when they could be earning $1 million out there on the stage.
In 1999, after an exhaustive 2-year investigation, the investigators published their conclusions in the SPR's official proceedings. They were looking for evidence of a hoax. They sifted evidence for signs of fakery. But did they find it?
If you take all the phenomena within the whole of the Scole experiment over 2 years while we were there, I would say that the possibility of fraud and faking was nil.
Although the Scole report includes theoretical discussions about how individual phenomena might have been faked, the chief investigators concluded that events at Scole cannot be explained either by known scientific laws or by trickery. But psychology professor Chris French, the co-editor of Skeptic magazine, remains unconvinced.
There's lots of claimed evidence for life after death coming from lots of different sources. The debate should be about the quality of the evidence. At the moment, on the basis of the available evidence, I'm not at all convinced that there is such a thing as life after death.
I think the skeptics regard the possibility of the survival of human consciousness as inherently so impossible that anyone must be rather crazy to believe it. But when you look at the evidence, you have to ask yourself whether you'd be even more crazy not to believe it, or to find some alternative explanation which makes any sort of sense. And I haven't found one.
When we die, we go into another world, a lot of worlds, 3,665 worlds, because I read it in the Bible.
News of the amazing events at Scole spread around the world. In 1997, they were invited to hold sessions in 4 European countries and the United States. Some of the most successful sessions occurred in the Los Angeles home of Brian Hurst.
We wanted to see whether it could also take place so many thousands of miles away from Scole, here in Southern California.
Hurst's converted garage was the venue for 8 sessions. As many as 30 people attended each one.
Oh, hi! Hello, Cynthia. Hi, nice to see you. Great.
Before each session, investigators carefully inspected the room.
Many people went in at different times before the sessions, and there was no paraphernalia. There was nothing hidden there at all.
Despite being interviewed a decade after the Scole experiment, these witnesses are still profoundly moved by what they saw.
There was so much phenomena going on. It was really overwhelming.
As with most sessions, visitors began by sitting quietly in total darkness. Then they started hearing the voices of the spirit team speaking through the mediums.
Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Marie.
Then the darkened room burst into life.
Isn't that cool? Look at that. That is awesome. Wow.
It's like a firefly. Like fireworks.
Wow. And then it would go up to the rafters of the garage and come down and thunk hard like a big rock hitting the table and then disappear.
As well as these amazing balls of light, furniture in the room began to move.
We had a table in the center of the room that had crystals on it.
It's moving.
The table is indeed levitating.
The table levitated, was turned on its side, and began to spin very rapidly. The crystals never fell off. Even if it hadn't been on the table, it would have been impossible to have turned the table sideways and rotated it with the speed at which it rotated. And we could see this because there were luminescent strips on the table. And it began to spin around actually so rapidly it almost looked like a pinwheel.
Wow. Can you imagine seeing that?
As well as familiar spirit communities.
I would be so excited, dude.
They belong to dead relatives, also attempted to communicate.
Someone for Shirley.
Yes. Sure, Dad?
Speak to him.
Hi, Dad.
I really do feel that my dad came and he was the one who put his hands on my shoulders. The way we were situated in the room, my chair was right up against a wall, and there was no way another person could be behind me.
Oh, did you see it? It gave the punch symbol.
Right?
You're not ready for it.
Oh, you looked. You're gonna get punched by spirit.
Then another hand appeared in front of them. But who did it belong to?
There was a particular communicator called Reg Lawrence, who was an engineer in his lifetime and who became very expert at producing voices from midair.
Hello, Red.
Hello, Brian. Very nice of you to have us here.
He just touched my hand. Oh,
Like
yes.
Oh,
Oh, he's stroking it. It's slightly cold, but it's flesh. He's shaking my hand. Oh my God.
Oh,
Rex, you've made my year.
You make mine.
As usual, Lawrence did not communicate through the mediums. Instead, the group could hear his voice projected from different parts of the room.
Some of the voices were moving around the room, even high up in the rafter area that somebody would have had to climb up on a ladder to get up there, and there's no way that was happening.
The spirit team also came to be regarded as healers by the participants.
Has it gone inside you, that light?
It's in my chest right now. So it's right there around my heart, and I have a little bit of a heart problem.
I was diagnosed with cancer, and a very fast-moving, dangerous cancer. I sat with Scole, and probably 2 to 3 weeks later, I had biopsies again, and they came back completely negative.
All of the visitors attending the LA session said the experience changed their lives forever.
You're right.
We've asked so many times, dude. We've asked that question like 8 times, and it's always come back the same.
Yeah.
Ever.
When you walk out of that room, you definitely feel like you've been exposed to something very extraordinary.
We actually saw the spirits. And that's got to be positive evidence for survival.
We do live on after death. They certainly proved that to us that night.
Being survived in Auschwitz, and also my parents were killed in Auschwitz, including my 11-year-old brother, who was killed on arrival with my parents. And I just cannot accept it that that should be the end of them.
Previously, we have shown how experiments at Scole and with Bacci provide powerful evidence for life after death. But some researchers think there may be another possible explanation. Could some of the remarkable events shown in this film be the result of human paranormal abilities like psychokinesis, the claimed ability of the mind to directly affect matter?
There's an enormous amount of evidence for the existence of psychokinesis. In the laboratory, we're talking mainly about the evidence of human consciousness on random number generators and very small events that can be totally controlled. There is clear evidence that people can affect things.
One of the most famous practitioners of psychokinesis, or PK,
Yeah, that was done on 35 millimeter film that they locked in the box, and they
Kulagina
developed
was
it
able to
after.
demonstrate her abilities under strictly controlled conditions in front of a team of scientists. Researchers who investigated her were convinced she was able to do this solely by the power of her mind. So could the Scole group and their visitors unwittingly have created some or all of the phenomena using mind over matter?
As an explanation, although it's not more than just simply a label to it, this is psychokinesis in physical mediumship. Whether it is a spirit working through someone, a spirit acting directly on an object, or the medium's mind causing the things to move.
Say there were real mind over matter effects going on as opposed
Very
to conjuring
interesting.
tricks. Then how do we know they were coming from the minds of the disembodied people rather than from the minds of the mediums who were sitting in the room?
There is no definitive answer to this question. But the theory that these phenomena were due solely to psychokinesis from the living seems improbable, since PK produced in laboratories tends to be weak. Therefore, mind over matter from the living is unlikely to explain the huge range of phenomena featured in this film.
Emily, when did you live on the Earth? Oh, a long time ago now. 19th century? Yes.
We simply have a number of clues of information which was extremely unlikely to have derived from the subconscious mind or the conscious mind of the medium. And the more impressive those are, the less likely it is that you can say that this is an aspect of mediumship. And the more likely it is, it's an aspect of discarnate communication.
Previously, we traveled with the Scole group to Italy, where they first met with Marcello Bacci. They say they were able to talk to the spirits via his radio.
Come on, who's this? Come on, I'm here. Time stream.
But when the Scole group visited Bacci in a later session, he was having problems. For months, hundreds of people who came from around the world in the hope of hearing their dead loved ones were bitterly disappointed. All they heard was static. Bacci was depressed. He feared he had lost his unique talent.
Dude, and that depression
And
is
in an
what lowered
extraordinary
his
piece of luck,
frequency, dude. I don't think I think once that happened, he was so embarrassed that opened up a whole nother door, and it just lowered his frequency. You know what I mean?
He
was
unable to do it.
Dude, because that's happened to me a number of times when I've gone live. Like, I've had shitty friggin' sessions, man. And it was because something happened that triggered something, and it brought that energy down.
Yeah, it blocks your connection.
Yeah.
Our cameras rolled in an interview with Bacci, the radio, which had been silent for so long, burst into life.
Chiudete tutto! Cosa they're coming the radio? They're coming the radio.
And they're speaking in Italian, his native language.
Grazie Gregorio, però ci sono, vi prego, stasera sapete.
Bachi's drought was over. When the radio voice stopped, there was celebration.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, che gli hanno detto.
Bachi felt he'd regained his ability to communicate with the spirits. But then joy turned to disappointment as he thought he had failed to record the voice.
Madonna, non è partito. No.
Era solo il tuo.
See, that doubt.
No, era partito, l'ho spento
It doesn't
io,
matter.
dai. Quando l'ho messo dietro.
Yeah, but I tell you what, watch.
Mi fa sì. Poveretto, l'ho desiderato. Io poi dico, ma l'ho messo io indietro.
Once the recording was transcribed, Bachi told us the voice belonged to a spirit called Gregorio, a Catholic friar who had died many years ago. Later, independent researcher Dr. Toriello read the last part of this ghostly message.
Man, he passed his time just deceiving himself, okay? But when all of you will be here where we are, okay? Then you will find the answer to all your questions. I'm sorry, I cannot say more.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that local recordings are...
We do look down on our friends and loved ones after we die until such time as we move on to some other dimension. I think you can think what you like, really.
Despite the evidence from Scole and Bachi, most scientists still refuse to even consider the possibility that consciousness might survive death. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, the internationally renowned biologist and Scole investigator, offers an explanation.
There's a dominant materialism in science that grew up in the 19th century. It's become part of the culture of science, but
So I believe
it's really a dogmatic belief
communicates
system
in a
rather than
language that we
testable theory.
understand.
What this means that scientists have become completely focused.
Yeah, to answer your question, I believe that it doesn't matter where we are in the world. I believe that spirit can understand us, and they will speak in the language that we need to hear them, and that we understand, because they're on.
You got to realize, Chris, is that that the words we speak is all man-made. It's all made in this physical realm. That's how spirits are able to know the different communications, because they're able to tap into your energy and your physical being to make you understand what they're saying. So, you know, if say some guy in China wanted to talk to my brother would speak Chinese to him, because it's that connection between spirit and mind.
On the things they can both measure and replicate in labs.
Within science, based on a materialist point of view, the mind is the brain. So anything that suggests the mind might be more than the brain goes against the theory.
Whatever you understand, whatever the physical being asking the questions.
Another prominent scientist not convinced that consciousness is solely the result of brain activity is Dr. Charles Tart.
But that's just a small part of the spectrum.
Dr. Tart is Emeritus Professor of Psychology at the University of California and a leading researcher into the evidence for life after death.
The idea that survival of bodily death is impossible and that we're nothing but our brains and bodies is really a function of an outmoded view in science, a Newtonian worldview. Now, the Newtonian worldview works very well for everyday events, but one of the most interesting things about modern science, especially when you look at stuff like quantum theory, is that the world is far more mysterious than we think. And we now have experimental evidence of what Einstein called spooky action at a distance, that we can instantaneously affect something in a distant part of the universe. That's really wild. If consciousness has any of the qualities of this quantum level of existence, then phenomena like survival of bodily death are probably not so mysterious after all.
But could quantum theory explain one of the most shocking experiments conducted at Scole?
This particular experiment was perhaps the most important experiment of the whole series.
Previously, we showed how visitors reported seeing these balls of light appear before them.
It's like fireworks.
On this occasion, one of them flew inside a large quartz crystal.
The crystal then levitated, you could see it glowing, and then descended into a Pyrex bowl. Then Arthur Ellison was invited to pick it up. He picked it up and satisfied himself that it was there and it was glowing, and he put it down again. He was asked right away to pick it up again. He tried to, and his fingers closed right over it. It had dematerialized.
There's nothing there, yes, it looks the same, but there's nothing there.
Then he was asked to pick it up again, and it rematerialized in his hand.
Oh, I can feel the crystal now.
Now, this dumbfounded him. This is what finally convinced him that this was real, because it couldn't have been faked in any way. And he had his head right over the top of the bowl in order to ensure that no hand or no instrument could interfere with it.
Of course, we were totally amazed by this. Things do not materialize and dematerialize. This is against all the laws of nature. We're trained scientists, of course. We know how the world behaves, and it doesn't behave like that.
Well, you really think what we're experiencing now? Yes, amazing. Very cool, yes.
But what does this remarkable demonstration tell us about what might happen after death?
The spirit team told us that the experiment with the crystal in the bowl gave a good
The
example
spirit team, that's what they
what
call
happened
them.
when we die, in that the essence of the crystal remained even when the physical part of the crystal had been removed. Our bodies represent the physical part, but the essence of ourselves remains the same. This, if you like, can be termed the soul.
I believe in the possibility of life after death. What do I think would happen after? I don't know. I just don't know. Do you?
Well, I don't particularly want to have anything other than pure death, and I would rather not believe in survival, but I find it impossible to be intellectually honest and not believe in survival.
Tragically, during the production of this film, Montague Keen died.
These are those rhombohedron crystals in your pineal gland. When those crystals become electrically activated, all of a sudden they start calling energy back to them, and they begin to build their own electromagnetic.
Damn commercials.
But this gave us the opportunity of testing whether or not he actually got his wish for oblivion. This came in the form of Alison Dubois. Dubois has become one of the most famous mediums in the world after her abilities were dramatized in the hit TV show Medium.
When things come through that strong,
Huge.
I can't get going.
We visited the University of Arizona, where scientists were testing the abilities of America's top mediums. Here we challenged Alison Dubois to contact the spirit of Montague Keen.
Thank you, Pam.
It's when you're alive.
She was able to conduct her mediumship in full light, in front of the camera, with two researchers seated behind, asking questions.
Do you have any idea who this person is?
Dubois wasn't given any information about Keen. The only thing she was told was the first name of Keen's widow, Veronica.
The fact that he gets to still be here around the people he loves is huge to him.
Although many of Dubois' statements were vague, some were astonishingly accurate.
He went down at a podium, or no. He's showing a man falling at the podium, like, and falls, and he goes down at the podium.
Okay.
This is important. So like an assembly.
On the night of his death, Keen was taking part in a debate at the Royal Society of Arts in London.
Wow.
While defending his position, His voice faltered mid-sentence, and he died.
Any distinguished scientists could be here.
Take a rest.
Crazy.
No, that I don't even know what it means. I mean, he's making me feel like either he had a heart attack or his breath was taken from him, but he's showing him knees buckling and going down.
Is there a doctor in the house?
People jumping up, like everybody rising. He goes down and they go up.
Right.
Also, there would have been like a banner announcement or a banner hanging of what this conference was or whatever it was. He's kind of laughing and he's like, way to go out, like way to leave this world, right there and then.
Dubois stated that Keane is now as interested in communicating with the living as he once was in talking to the dead.
To try and understand better, like to understand the other side, what you guys are seeing that's right and what's not right, and almost
try to
like
talk
try
to
and
him,
help
dude.
make that clear.
Yeah.
I do believe in an afterlife. I'm not sure what that life will look like if we just go back into the source, but I just kind of live my life like we'll see when we get there.
Chris agrees.
Although some researchers continue to question whether the experiments featured in this film represent convincing evidence for an afterlife, for the leading investigators and participants, there is little doubt it does.
We actually
Talk with
saw
the
the
Lord.
spirits.
Talking with the
Emily, when did you live on the Earth? Oh, a long time ago now. 19th century? Yes.
I think we were pushing the barriers further than they've ever been pushed before. And I think we just got to the stage where at that time we couldn't go any further.
In 1998, after 5 years and 500 sessions, the Scole experiment finally came to an end. The Scole experiment may be over, but today, in Italy, grieving parents continue to report hearing the voices of their dead children on Baci's radio. And Vicky Talbot says she continues to receive the voice of her deceased son, Braden, via EVP. But the debate about the authenticity and significance of this evidence continues to rage.
Now, according to science, when you physically die and when your brain stops functioning, that is it. That is the end.
The experiences that I've had have convinced me that it is very difficult to explain
Yeah,
any of
essentially
these
a
things
portal.
by an
The
alternative
way the
explanation to that of survival.
frequency and
You're
energy
not going to win
combine.
everybody. I mean, you're not going to be able to ever have everybody believe that there's another side. That's just not going to happen.
I hope the significance of those experiments will literally be to make people think, to stop and think, and look at their own lives, to look at where they're going, perhaps to be better people.
That was amazing, dude. That was so amazing, dude. I'm glad we got a chance to finish that.
Exactly. And what it brings up is a lot of questions and a lot of answers. Like, you figure all these mediums got together and they were able to get spirit to do such amazing things, and they allowed them to record it, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And then getting scientists involved and having scientists, show the evidence, and show that, they didn't mess with it at all is just crazy. Yes, really true.
You'd be an ass in spirit. Yeah, I've run into a few. They called me things.
Totally true. Totally true.
AJ got called a name in his graveyard.
Yeah, I got called an ass crack, so I totally get it. But if you guys want to check out that full documentary again, just type in the Scole experiment. It's called The Afterlife Investigations. You'll be able to check it out with Marcello Bacci, who does a lot of work. Marcello Bacci recently passed away, but his family is still doing his work till this day in Italy. And it's absolutely amazing, his work and his documentary. So check it out on YouTube. But thank you guys for watching it with us. But do you have anything else you want to say, man?
No, I'm just I'm real excited. Spirit guided me today to find the old sheriff of the cold case I'm working on. So I'm going to be reaching out to him to see if any of this makes sense, or if he has any questions that I should ask to kind of prove his skepticism, because I find that people aren't, and on the initial conversation, they're not accepting of it, like just like in the Scole experiment.
Yeah.
So if he had questions, if I could get the answer to prove that, that would help them out. You know, it's all about helping out spirit, and that's what I'm gonna do. So
yeah, well,
yeah, I would love AJ and me to create an experiment like this. You know, that would be cool. If he's in Connecticut and I'm here and we can do this, that would be cool, man.
yeah, no, definitely. That would be absolutely something awesome to do, for sure. I mean, we're hopefully working towards it. I mean, with what we're doing now and how we can teach people to, get their connection down and to use these, spirit devices is something that is very big to us. So who knows? Maybe it'll expand, and maybe spirit will do something amazing along those lines, just like they did for Scole experiment.
Dude,
So,
I want to get one of those old cameras. I have to try that out to see if anything would show up. Like, just do it live, like hold the camera. People see me unwrapping the tape, put it in there, and they can see me putting it on the thing and hitting record. That'd be crazy, dude. I'd love to see if I get anything.
yeah, it was absolutely amazing to see that. I mean, if spirits are portals, I mean, they definitely caught something,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching. My name's AJ Capasso of Talking with the Source. I'm with Jonathan Keyworth of JK47 Paranormal Investigations. Real quick, shout out your podcast.
Oh, yeah. So Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Mountain Time, so 2 p.m. Eastern, I do targeting with the JK47, and I work on cold cases live. So I do live sessions, and then I'll review it, and I'll put the clips in. If you guys go to my YouTube or my Facebook page, even my TikTok, you can see what we've been working on. So this next session will be session 5 for the Jameson family. They're a family that went missing in 2009, and they were found, their bones and what was left over was found 4 years later by some hunters. So check it out, guys. It's fun.
Awesome. Well, and awesome. Check out our new True Crime podcast on Facebook. It is airing tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard
Hit
Time.
me up in the messenger. Leave a comment of the cold case you want.
Yeah, contact JK, and he'll definitely help you out. So, but thank you guys so much for watching. This has been another episode of Talking with the Source. Till next time, thank you so much. This is AJ.
Love and light, guys. Love and light.